The murder of Felicia GAYLE. Felicia Ann GAYLE, known to many, was born on February 6, 1956, was an American journalist murdered during a burglary in her gated community on August 11, 1998. GAYLE, a 42-year-old reporter for St. Louis Post-Dispatch, was found dead in her home, having been stabbed up to 43 times with a butcher's knife taken from her kitchen. During the investigation, Marcellus Williams was charged with GAYLE's murder. Prosecutors presented evidence that included testimonies of Williams' former cellmate, girlfriend, and a man who testified to Williams selling him GAYLE's stolen laptop. Other evidence included Williams' possession of items stolen from GAYLE's home. In August 2001, William was sentenced to death. On appeal, he raised several issues, including claims of errors. He also challenged the use of prior criminal history and alleged improper prosecutorial comments during closing arguments. The death sentence was controversial, as DNA evidence had been claimed to prove his innocence, and GAYLE's family repeatedly stating they did not want Williams executed. The court rejected these arguments, finding no abuse of discretion by the trial court. The Missouri Supreme Court rejected Williams' appeal, concluding that it was neither disproportionate nor influenced by prejudice. They concluded that there were sufficient circumstances, such as the brutality of the crime and Williams' prior convictions. The court affirmed both the conviction and the death sentence. William was executed on September 24, 2024, amid ongoing protests. Felicia Ann GAYLE was born on February 5, 1956, in Rockford, Illinois. She graduated from the University of Illinois with a degree in journalism before working as a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, where she stayed until 1992. In 1979, she married Dr. Daniel Piskus, who led the interventional radiology department at Burns Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. Marcellus Williams was born on December 30, 1968, in South Bend, Indiana, and his mother and two brothers moved to St. Louis, Missouri. Williams grew up in an impoverished and dysfunctional household where he was exposed to alcohol, drugs, guns at a young age, being subjected to violent sexual and physical abuse by family members, abandoned by his parents, and his family condoned criminal behavior and substance abuse. After having a son and marrying a single mother and a daughter, Williams' oldest brother's death in 1997 deeply impacted on him, serving as a father figure. That same year, Williams burglarized a home and was incarcerated before his 1998 conviction for a donut shop robbery. While incarcerated, William was devoted to studying Islam and writing poetry. GAYLE's body was discovered by her husband at her home on the evening of August 11, 1998. Police arrived to the scene at around 8 p.m. Officers found GAYLE in a fetal position, with her left side covered in blood. She had been stabbed up to 43 times. A large butcher's knife was found lodged in her neck. She also had stab wounds on her back, thigh, and two more in her neck. Authorities described defensive wounds to her hands and arms, including a large gash in her right elbow. Investigators noted in the initial police reports that this came amidst a burglary spree in the neighborhood. In May 1998, GAYLE's family announced a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction in the case. Two individuals, Henry Cole and Laura Asaro, named Marcellus Scott Williams as the culprit. Cole received a $5,000 for his testimony, while Asaro did not request any reward for coming forward. Williams had an intensive criminal record. Cole volunteered that Williams had made a jailhouse confession to him when both were in jail on charges unrelated to the murder. Cole had already been released before volunteering his information. Williams had started serving a 20-year sentence for robbing a donut shop. Laura Asaro, the girlfriend of Williams at the time of the crime, gave testimony that Williams had confessed to her death and detailed what had happened. Asaro testified that she found a purse with GAYLE's identification in Williams' car. She also testified that she saw scratches on Williams' neck, blood on his shirt, and a laptop in his car. Unlike Cole's deposition, which was compatible with news reports, she is said to have provided details that had not been mentioned in public accounts of the crime. Prosecutors described physical evidence at the crime scene itself as inconclusive, as a shoe print, fingerprints, and hair found at the scene did not match Williams. A knife was found at the scene, had traces of DNA, but due to the killer wearing gloves, it only matched those of prosecution team members who handled it before it had been forensically tested and found to have no fingerprints on it. A search of Williams' car turned up at St. Louis Post Dispatch ruler and calculator that had belonged to GAYLE. A laptop stolen from GAYLE was also recovered from a man who testified that Williams had sold the victim's laptop to him. Williams was convicted of first-degree murder in 2001 and received a death sentence. Williams was held on death row at Potosi Correctional Center after his trial. He maintained his innocence in the GAYLE case until he accepted an Alford plea. An Alford plea, also called as Kennedy plea in West Virginia, or an Alford guilty plea, is a guilty plea in criminal court whereby a defendant in a criminal case does not admit to the criminal act and asserts innocence, but accepts imposition of a sentence. This plea is allowed even if the evidence to be presented by the prosecution would likely to persuade a judge or jury to find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This can be caused by circumstantial evidence and testimony favoring the prosecution and finding it difficult on evidence and witnesses that would aid the defense. His case was appealed unsuccessfully several times. He was first scheduled to be prosecuted by lethal injection in 2015. In appeals, his defense produced evidence that DNA taken from the knife at the scene revealed an unknown male profile, later revealed to belong to the male prosecutor who had handled the knife, and did not match that of Williams. Nevertheless, Williams was rescheduled for execution on August 22nd, 2017. Questions continue to be raised as the state Supreme Court will neither hear the new DNA evidence nor stay the execution. The prosecutor said they were confident about the case despite the DNA, as DNA evidence had never formed any part of the basis of the conviction. Governor Eric Greitens issued a last-minute stay of execution that day. The governor initiated a board of inquiry to examine the new DNA evidence and other aspects of the case. The board was headed by Carol E. Jackson, former federal judge at the Eastern District of Missouri, and consisted of 5 retired federal judges to review the case. It subpoenaed both prosecution and defense. The board was also to meet with the state and defense attorneys in 2018 June. Greitens resigned as governor in June 2018. The DNA evidence and new analysis did not match that of Williams. It was later revealed to belong to the prosecutor who mishandled the knife after it was seized as evidence. In August 2018, Governor Mike Parson was to receive the board's conclusion and make his decision. In June 2023, Parson decided to dissolve the panel of 5 judges without receiving their report and lifted the stay of Williams' execution as he claimed it was time for court to make a decision. Later, State Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the state Supreme Court to set a date for Williams' execution. The Innocence Project alleged that the Missouri Attorney General's office has a record of dismissing DNA evidence that points to an accused person's innocence. On January 27, 2024, St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney Wesley Bell filed a motion in St. Louis County Circuit Court asking the court to vacate Williams' death sentence. A 2021 Missouri law allows a prosecutor to intervene where there is information suggesting a convicted person may be innocent. He cited potential ineffective assistance of counsel and of courts, apparent bias in jury selection, and potential weakness of police investigation. He asked the court for a hearing to consider the new evidence and the other aspects of the investigation and trial. The new evidence consisted of a special prosecutor's review of the case, including findings of 3 independent DNA experts who anonymously concluded that the male DNA on the murder weapon was not Williams. Rather, it belonged to an investigator and assistant prosecuting attorney who had handled the murder weapon without wearing gloves, as it had been forensically tested. A hearing was scheduled for August 21st, 2024 to determine his innocence. However, as DNA evidence had never formed any part of the basis of Williams' conviction, the motion to vacate was not granted. On June 4th, 2024, Williams again was scheduled to be executed on September 24th, 2024. On July 2nd, the Circuit Court of St. Louis County, Missouri, scheduled a hearing on 21st August 2024 to evaluate the supposed evidence of Williams' innocence. On July 12, 2024, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that his execution would move forward despite the pending lawsuit to overturn his conviction. In the court's opinion overruling the motion, Justice Zell Fisher ruled that they do not have the procedural authority to withdraw the execution order at this time. End of quote. On August 21st, 2024, Williams accepted a plea bargain offered by the prosecution to commute his death sentence to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The prosecutors argued in favor of Williams during the hearing, pointing out that the DNA on the murder weapon was not his and that they had duly considered this fact before offering him an Alford plea to vacate his death sentence. However, the State Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, opposed the decision and wanted the execution to move forward as scheduled. And Williams' execution remained September 24, 2024. A hearing was scheduled to consider Williams' claims of innocence. On September 12, 2024, St. Louis County Circuit Judge Bruce Hilton rejected Williams' appeals, all of which had been rejected multiple times by the state and the federal courts. On September 12, 2024, St. Louis County Circuit Judge Bruce Hilton rejected Williams' appeal, stating that the counsel was rehearsing their arguments from previous appeals, all of which had been rejected multiple times by the state and federal courts, and ordered that the execution should move forward as scheduled. On September 24, 2024, Person denied Williams clemency and the case was reviewed by United States Supreme Court hours before the scheduled execution. The Supreme Court denied the request to halt the execution, although Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson stated that they would have granted the request. Despite pleas from the public, on September 24, 2024, 55-year-old Williams was executed by lethal injection at 6 p.m. CT at Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bon Terre, Missouri. William requested chicken wings and tater tots for his last meal. In a statement, the office of Missouri Governor Mike Person justified Williams' execution, citing, among other things, his prior criminal record and his alleged behavior in prison, which included attacking other inmates and threatening correctional officers. End of quotes. Williams' last statement, which was written down and witnessed on September 24, 2024, was, quote, "All praise be to Allah in every situation," end of quote. William had converted into Islam in prison, taking up the name Khalifa and becoming an imam, leading prayers in his cell block. Described as kind and thoughtful man by his lead defense attorney, also dedicated his time in prison to poetry.